Sure. Generally, most of the food was really great. I'm not a terribly picky eater, but I do remember that one Hispanic family served me tongue tacos, cow's tongue tacos. And so that was probably the most exotic thing. It wasn't bad. It was a little chewy. So, yeah. So I remember one time I was teaching a young girl, and she called me up late one night telling me that she had run away, and so she needed some help. And so I, against my companion's wishes and my better judgment, decided to try to help her. But luckily we called the zone leaders at the time to come with us. And so we kind of found this girl who's just in a parking lot, and she had run away, but then her grandfather like pulled up, and he was drunk as a skunk, and just started yelling at us and at her, and it was just a very stressful situation. The cops ended up coming and kind of calming everybody down and calming the situation, and that was probably, I wasn't scared, but that was certainly one of the more tense moments on my mission, was that. So in my first area, there was a young family, or there was a family with some young children, and this family, they had been taking the discussions for 6 months now. They were waiting to get married because they were living together, and they just had to get married, and that was, of course, one of the, you can't be cohabitating when you're baptized. And they had this young daughter who had RSV, which is respiratory, I don't know, but it's basically asthma. And she had an attack while we were there, and they were going to take her to the hospital. But the previous Sunday, the father had just heard about a Mormon, just heard about blessings for the sick. And so he asked us to give her a blessing, and she was like really sick, like coughing a lot. And so I got the strongest feeling that I should give her this blessing. And my companion turned to me and he said, "You want to do it?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And so I basically blessed her that she would be healed completely. She would sleep through the night, and she wouldn't be bothered by this anymore. And so when I left, I turned to my companion and I'm like, what have I done? Like, I told this family that their daughter would be healed. And it would literally take a miracle for that to happen. And so I was just crying, and I was like, these people aren't going to get baptized now, But the next day, of course, they called us up and they were like, "I don't know what you guys did, but she was totally fine." Even the doctor was perplexed, because they did take her to the doctor, and he was like, "I don't know what you guys did, but she's totally fine. Her lungs are clear." And the dad was like, "We gave her a Mormon blessing." And after that, he was like, "I have no more doubts about the church." And so they ended up getting baptized. They got married and they got baptized, and it was really cool. Probably the greatest life lesson that I learned was given to me by my trainer, my first companion. And he said that you need to imagine your potential. And by imagining your potential, then you would be able to see what you can become. And that was one of the greatest lessons, because I was really scared, but by the end of my mission, I had reached what I had imagined I could do, and then some. Just because that's how it works on a mission. The Lord literally will give you the strength and the power to be the greatest missionary you can imagine, and more. So, even now, I use experiences from my mission when I'm in interviews about leadership. And I would say probably the best skills I learned as a missionary is how to inspire missionaries. Because once I became a zone leader, my focus became less it became less, not completely ignored, but less on missionary work personally, but more on making sure that the people in my zone were motivated and were doing the best that they were the best that they could be. So I gained a lot of skills in leadership and how to inspire people. It's got to be the heat. I have pictures of a sign at Walgreens that has the temperature on it, 120 degrees, and just dry as a bone. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. Probably the hardest experiences on my mission were disobedient companions. I've often heard that missions will have two of three challenges. One is lack of baptisms, one is living conditions, and one is disobedience. So you'll have one of the three challenges. You won't have all three. We had great living conditions. We were in the U.S. in a very, some of the apartments were rough, but compared to like the South America, they were fine. We had lots of work to do, but disobedience was certainly a problem. And so when you'd have a companion that was not as motivated as you were, that was certainly the hardest part of my mission. People say, oh, you got to adjust to regular life. I say, dude, forget that, man. Try to be a missionary as long as you can. Stick to the reading every day in the morning for hours, praying, keeping that missionary mindset. I say, don't adjust. Try to be a missionary as long as you can, because your life will just get busy and you will adjust on your own. Don't worry about trying to adjust. It would be my opinion.